So some of the things that we do are we really just look at where the kids are right now before we start introducing new ideas and concepts to them. So some of the things that we do early in the year are we ask them to quietly sit and observe their reflection in a mirror and then have an opportunity to draw a self-portrait. And we accept whatever they draw. We don't give them any prompting except, pause for a moment, look in the mirror. Is there anything else you need to draw to make it look like you? And then we usually put those in a book on the bookshelf so the kids can all see them. We revisit this a couple of times every year to see how the development changes, but also how their image of themselves changes. We also often do things like, draw a picture of your family, especially at the beginning of the year as we're starting to get to know each other. And we let them include anybody that they consider part of their family, including animals. So sometimes we have lots of people, sometimes fewer people, and we just talk about those things and who the important people are in our lives. We also really try to bond as a class. So we often talk about how we're a group and we do things together, like especially when we're coming in from outside, we're not going to go inside until everybody is with us. We as adults, of course, know that's a safety issue, but our terminology with the kids is, we're a group, we're a class, we stay together, we wait for each other, that kind of thing. So to start building that bonding as a group. Some of the other things that we do is we usually interview the kids at the beginning of the year about something that they want to learn about. Throughout the year we look at the children's interests and we try to base some of our curriculum on that. But we point blank just ask them, what's something you want to learn about at school? And then we make sure that we take time during the school year to address those things. So everybody knows, Finley is interested in aliens from space. So when we study aliens and space, we really talk a lot about how this was Finley's interest. We do some other things like a question of the day. This is with the oldest kids especially, where we gather information or data, as we call it, about our group. As a group, how do we feel about different things? Some of them are pretty benign, like would you ride in a rocket? Again, alluding to Finley's interest in space. But there are other things too, like would you ride a pony? Do you like riding on the ferry? Just those kinds of things so we get an idea of our class culture and what our likes and interests are. We use a lot of different books. You can see some of the books here on the bookshelf behind us. We, identify the group that we have and we try to make sure that we have books that correspond to who they are. We also have just general books that say, things like this, all are welcome. So it's about kids going to school and celebrating different things and different families and the things that they like to do, but that as a class in our school, everyone is welcome, no matter what your family is like or what you look like. We have books that show lots of different types of families. So hopefully, at least in some of these books, every child will see at least a similar representation to their very own family.
One of the other things we do is we really actually talk a lot, especially in the Eagles class, about the things that make us very similar and the things that make us different. One of the conversations that the kids just started one day at the snack table was, someone looked at the person next to them and said, "Are your parents married?" And the kid paused for a minute and thought about it and was like, "No." And then we kind of went around the circle. Are your parents married? What does that mean to be married? I don't know. Some families have parents that are married. Some families have parents that aren't. Some families only have one parent. Some families have two parents. Some families have two moms. Some families have two dads. And so we really just take opportunities like that to really talk about how we are all the same, but we are all different. Today it was the hair conversation. I have curly hair. Teacher Debbie has curly hair. We have another friend that has curly hair. How did your hair get curly? How did your hair get straight? So just really taking every opportunity we can to just pause and talk about that and be like, oh yeah, look, we are kind of similar, but we're also different. And not really ever saying, oh, I like red hair best or I like curly hair best, but everybody's hair is different and we're all cool with that.
Yeah, and we love those kinds of what they call teachable moments. So instead of us just deciding, on June 7th, we're going to have a discussion about hair out of the blue. It was really, really appropriate because here it was June 7th and this conversation was just naturally coming up with the children's interests. So that's the other thing is, as parents, kind of look for those teachable moments. If you notice something in the community, your child makes a comment, try to honor it and follow through with it and help them expand their understanding of that. You'll see that, when Fabienne was talking, it's not like we gave the children answers. Oh, your hair is curly because it came from your mom and dad and the follicles do blah, blah, blah. It was more of a discussion of, oh, isn't that, you're curious about somebody else's hair that's a little different than yours perhaps. Some of the other things that we do is we try to, and we encourage the kids not to separate as boys and girls. So we never have like a girls line or a boys line for hand washing. Sometimes as 4-year-olds mature, they like to separate the world into categories. And so sometimes we hear them say things like, boys can't come on the loft, or this is a girl party. And so as teachers in this classroom that we're trying to be inclusive, we will quietly sit down with them. We kind of want to listen. What is their motivation for saying this? Is it because they have an important game and they don't want the interruption from anybody and the people that are coming happen to be boys? Or is there something else going on? So we try to sit quietly, listen to what's going on, and then support the kids in finding a way to include the other children. And we remind them that we don't have a boy loft or a girl loft, we have a kid loft. But you friends are using it right now, and these friends can use it next. Try to help children feel that they're citizens of the world, so we want to help them learn about other places around the world. We always start with where we live, right here in Washington, so we help the kids find that on the globe. And again, especially if we have some event or some family celebration that helps us learn about somewhere else, we'll tap into that. But we also just generally try to introduce some other places, ideas, and cultures and happenings to them. So, we may talk a little bit about Chinese New Year, and we'll find China on the map, and we'll work with chopsticks and some of those things. So we try to bring in at least some awareness of there are lots of other places around the world, and they eat, but they might eat a little bit differently than us. Mm-hmm. And even people here in our town might eat with chopsticks. Have you ever tried chopsticks? Let's put some chopsticks out. Let's see what that feels like.
And then we always try to have at least one book around the classroom at all times that has some Spanish speaking language in it, because we do live in a community where a lot of people, Spanish is their first language and English is their second language. And we try to embrace that. We try to often muddle our way through some.
Yes, unfortunately we're not fluent in anything except English. But we do our best, and we always, and we use that as an opportunity too. We tell the children, I'm reading this. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I'm gonna sound it out the best I know. And this is how I think it might sound. And maybe we can find out how it really sounds. But we let them know it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to just try that. Again, this goes back to things like we don't have a policy of you can say, it's a girl's turn on the loft and you boys are not invited to the party. We talk about inclusion that way. We're really sensitive to the words that kids use with each other and how they get turns with things and how they manage their space. And we're always reminding them to speak with kindness and respect to their friends.
We're also always encouraging them to try to work through their issues first, because we can't always be the person that's going to swoop in and save them. They really need to learn some of those words and how to stand on their own, so that when they do go off and they're away from us and they are met with that situation where they need to find some strength for themselves, so that they have those words to deal with that situation. So a lot of the identifying, how do you feel? Well, look, how do you think that person feels? And sometimes in the beginning, you're giving them those words, you're feeding them those words. Oh, I think you look like you're really frustrated. You seem like you're really sad. You seem really angry. And then also going, oh, look at your friend. You took their toy. Look how upset they are now. Look, they look really sad. So that they can really understand what it's like to work through that situation without an adult there.
Yeah, and we often suggest, what do you think we could do about that? Again, instead of swooping in and saying, you need to give that toy back right now, we say, what do you think you could do? And it's interesting, to watch the children work it out, because sometimes they know that we're kind of expecting them to give the toy back. But sometimes, as the two kids work it out, the one even who was offended at first might say, you can finish your turn, just give it to me when you're done. And so we kind of help them use that language.
Or we had that great incident last week where we were all getting ready to sit down to snack, and someone really needed to sit by their friend, and they looked down and they were like, I really wanted to sit there and that spot is taken. And the child that was sitting in that seat, without even being asked, got up and moved to a different place so that those two friends could sit next to each other.
Yeah, so it's just pointing out those opportunities, so then we acknowledge that. We noticed what you did to help some friends. And how did that feel to you, friends, now that you can sit together? Oh, that felt really good. Yeah, so what should we say to this friend? Oh, thank you for moving. So to kind of walk them through those situations.